KPCA.LP, Petaluma, California.
Greetings, Petaluma.
Hey, Petaluma, how are you?
This is KPCA.FM, KPCA.LP, Petaluma, California.
And it's Friday at noon, so Matt, it must be time for Two Mooks and a Mic.
Two Mooks and a Mic, Jim. Hey, how you doing?
All right, that's Matt McGuire saying hi to me.
And this is Jim Thomas over there receiving my greetings.
Yeah, and one of us has a bloody nose from cold and one of us doesn't, so I thought I would talk like this just in sympathy. What do you think?
We should be broadcasting and letting people see just what a glorious operation this is.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, before we jump into the meat and potatoes here, I have a public service announcement.
Good, let's hear it.
A new one-of-a-kind comedy show is coming to Petaluma this winter. On Friday, January 18th, join KPCA for a special presentation of the Crossword Show with Zach Sherwin. Mm-hmm. This is a one-of-a-kind show. This one-of-a-kind show pits comedians against an interactive crossword puzzle hosted by Eric Rap Battles Zach Sherwin.
Wow.
And will feature guest solvers Francesca Fiorentini, Bethany Van Delft, and Natasha Muse. This is at the Keller Street co-work space. Doors open at 6:30. Show starts at 7. Drinks will be made available by sponsors Barrel Brothers Brewing and Revive Kombucha. Oh, you kombucha fans, you're going to want to go there.
Yeah, that'll revive you, man.
And all bar proceeds benefit KPCA.
So drink up.
Petaluma's free-range radio station. Tickets are $15 in advance and $20 at the door.
Sounds good.
For more information and tickets, go to www.blondemedicine.com.
Blondemedicine.com. Matt, I want to give you kudos for pronouncing all those people's names. They weren't easy.
That was a challenge.
It was a challenge, but you did it.
Well, I took a couple days in advance to, practice.
You put the copy under your pillow and it just seeped in. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about this week, Matt.
Yeah, Jim, we pointed out that, you and I have been co-hosting this show for a year now.
Yeah, that's right. I still have a ring. Thank you.
Is the honeymoon over, though?
I think so.
Well, I
you
think
sleep on your own side of the bed now.
I think it's a keeper. But I think we should start saying that we are officially the Trump Death Spiral Watch.
Gosh, that is so
program.
nice to say. Say it one more time, would you please?
The Trump Death Spiral Watch.
I like that. It's
show.
a little hard to say, but man, it is worth it. It's getting it out is just great.
Really, doesn't it feel like though that the guy is thrashing around more and more, and that it's just getting to the desperation phase.
Matt, everything has been a bombshell. Everything that happens, it seems like, oh my God, this is the end. And
That's
yet
true.
It's not. He keeps limping along and nothing seems to be done. And we get numb to these incredible bombshells of what's happening. But finally, maybe today, there's been new news happening.
Well, there's a number of developments.
Yeah,
and they may be
stops.
small in individual ones, but cumulatively, they're starting to add up.
Death by 1,000 cuts, I think they
so
call
like Trump refused to meet with Mueller this week, who wanted to meet him in person to ask follow-up questions from the written answers that Trump had provided.
that the lawyers wrote.
Yeah.
Right, because even though Trump claims he wrote them himself, we know that's not true.
Yeah, exactly.
Hamburgers.
And then, of course, how about this? Trump has, basically concealed the details of 5 different meetings with, Vladimir the Impaler Putin.
That's right.
The president of Russia.
He pulled him off aside and said, let's just meet one-on-one with our translators.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and then at the
unprecedented
at the Helsinki meeting, which was an embarrassment for the country worldwide, he actually took the interpreter's notes away from her.
What's up with that?
So which is completely a violation of norms, because normally, if you're going to talk to another country head, and especially if you make agreements, which Trump claims he did, then it needs to be documented, because otherwise the other side can play you. If there's so guess what?
What?
He took away the notes, and it looks
crazy.
like he's being played. Right?
Yeah.
And because here's the thing that is most interesting now.
Yeah, what's that?
And that is that the revelation that the FBI, when Trump fired Comey, the head of the FBI,
right? Bless you.
They opened a counterintelligence investigation against him to see if he was a national security threat.
Which is incredible to think of, that the FBI opened up an investigation of a sitting president of the United States.
Yeah, that's never happened.
And even with J. Edgar Hoover's reign, it never happened.
Yeah, and he was like the fascist of fascists.
Who wore ladies' underwear underneath his suits. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's kind of uncomfortable.
But he was so brutal to gays and
that is something wrong.
LGBTQ people.
Yeah.
So the FBI they opened this investigation to see if he was working on behalf of Russia against U.S.
Manchurian
interests,
candidate,
either knowingly or unwittingly, on top of possible criminal obstruction of justice.
I would say it's the
in
former.
The Comey firing.
Yeah. So back to the Helsinki thing, Matt. With the taking of the notes, we don't know what Trump gave away. He gave away perhaps he gave away the store. There's no record of it. But Putin knows exactly what he got.
Yes.
And actually started talking about what was going on in the Helsinki Accords, or the meeting, and Trump never said anything about that.
That's right.
So it makes sense that maybe he actually is knowingly working as a puppet of Vladimir Putin.
Well, as our listeners know, we've said many times in the past that he has been working with corrupt Russian oligarchs, people who are very tightly close, very close to Putin, in money laundering through Trump sales of Trump condominiums and such. That's gone on for several decades.
Yeah.
And, it does seem like Putin could have his hooks into Trump from years and years and years ago.
And not just the P-tapes. Maybe this is the P-tape. And related to that, you mentioned the things that he was doing in Moscow. This is what happened today. Actually, it was released that Michael Cohen apparently said that he was told to lie to Congress by Trump himself. BuzzFeed is the organization that released this, and it's not that.
And to lie about what?
This was his building in the skyscraper or the tower in Moscow.
The Trump Tower.
Trump Tower in Moscow, which never was built, but that was a big thing, that he was going to give Vladimir Putin a $20 million condo in that tower itself.
Oh, no kidding!
As a favor to have him do it.
And that's the topic that Trump said that, we no business with Moscow.
Right, that's right.
During the campaign, which turned out to be a complete and utter lie.
Yeah, a complete and utter lie. Well, it turns out that when I was listening to an interview with the reporter who broke this with BuzzFeed, and he was asked, did Trump actually do this himself, or was it a lackey who told Cohen to lie? And that they have evidence, apparently emails and other forms of evidence, that Trump himself told him to lie.
Who?
So this might be the bombshell of all bombshells. Maybe this is the actual death spiral, Matt, and maybe it's like he's going to bite the farm.
Buy the farm.
Yeah, or bite it too.
Yeah,
kind of bites.
Bite the
bullet. Nah, don't say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so Jim, there's a lot of speculation that Robert Mueller is going to be completing his report soon. He's been working at it for a long time.
Waited with bated breath.
And, people say he's a by-the-book straight shooter.
Yeah.
And you want that.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Particularly when you've got a complete and utter lunatic, a slavering, knuckle-dragging moron, that's enthralled to Putin. But you wonder, so it's like... William Barr, who is Trump's proposed attorney general appointee.
Which they're having hearings of whether he should be approved or not, right?
This week they've been having hearings. Right. And, the guy says, Oh, well, let's see. It's like,
So he looks good on paper, right? And he's saying all the right things. It seems to be, but people are like, they're skeptical about it.
Yeah, he's giving all the assurances, like, he's saying that, excuse me.
He didn't say that, but.
No, that was me.
Okay.
He said, I won't be bullied into doing anything I think is wrong by anybody, whether by editorial boards, Congress, or the president.
That sounds good. Sounds like you and me.
Sounds good. But this guy is basically when Kamala Harris said, would you recuse yourself if the Department of Justice ethics officers says you should?
Right.
He dodged the question.
He dodged the question. Okay, and that's a biggie.
Yeah,
because if he has his hand in the pie while this is going on, then he could sway it one way or the other.
Yeah, and so, he dodged that question, and then it's like, well, will you release the full report? I will release as much as I can.
Which basically is saying no.
Exactly. It's like I'm in control, and I'll do what I damn well please, right?
Damn well please, right.
So, while he's, let's see, where were we just before that?
Well, William Barr, the hearings are William Barr, and whether he actually is going to be a good one and tell the truth or not, we don't know.
Oh, well, so what I was saying is that, so Mueller, if he releases his report, and then it turns out that William Barr is just another corrupt swamp dweller, just like the rest of them.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Which Trump seems to dig deeper and deeper in the swamp and come up with sleazier and sleazier people.
Drain the swamp.
Then what would Mueller do? If he's a straight shooter, but he sees that the system is being, abused,
manipulated,
or rigged, or manipulated.
Right.
Do you think he would then find a way to release the information?
Matt, what I've heard is, and this is all speculation because we don't really know, but it seems like there's some indicators that what Mueller has been doing, he's been protecting himself because he anticipates that he might be shut down.
Yes.
And he's farmed out a lot of the investigations to local and state investigators
and
federal prosecutors. But part of it is so that if he's shut down, the investigation will still go on. But also, if he's censored in any way, which is what we're talking about, the local people or the smaller people can release this information. So hopefully it will be released to the public and not just to Congress. But if it's to Congress and the Democrats are there, maybe they will be the ones to release it to the public.
Well, I think they would.
I hope so.
Well, of course, and why wouldn't they? Because it's only going to be damaging unless, Mueller, finds no crime.
Oh, gosh, then don't release it. Don't tell us.
Well, do you think that's even slightly possible?
No.
I mean, just look at top to bottom, the emoluments clause.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for saying that. The Trump Hotel in Washington, D.C., which is the old post office building, it actually was, there was an investigation of whether it actually is a violation of the emoluments clause. Does he earn money from it? And they found that he did, but they've decided not to prosecute that at all to do that. Oh, we're getting a phone call, but we can't answer it because we don't have a line.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, the light was flashing, and Matt's blinking like
wow, strobe effect
rapidly. Yeah, it's like back to the '60s, man. Yeah. So anyway, I think that he's totally corrupt, and I think that it will prove that he is. I can't you wait to read the biography, what's happening, or the account of all of this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as we've said many times before, that basically the the democracy is under threat. Our whole form of democratic government is under threat.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. And worldwide, not just here, but worldwide.
Well, worldwide too. But our government is under threat,
which is scary
because Trump is basically out of control. And
ignoring all the things that
destroying
our country our country has stood for.
The guy's a vandal, and
yes, right. And in the sense of not the sense of taking spray cans of paint and writing his name, but a vandal is in a barbarian.
Yes, exactly, and who's doing everything he can to destroy democratic institutions and doing everything he can to turn all the wealth and resources in the country over to the billionaire class at the expense of everybody else.
So, Matt, that's called a kleptocracy.
That's right.
It's the rich people getting richer at the expense of everybody else. So it's basically just a grab bag. So the whole thing of Nancy Pelosi, you want to go there?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Nancy Pelosi telling Trump that he cannot do his State of the Union.
Well, she didn't say that. She invited him to postpone it.
Correct.
Because the government is shut down.
Thank you. Or what he can do is put it in writing, which is originally the way it was done.
Which is pretty funny on her part because she knows he can't spell.
He can't spell and he can't write.
So, did you hear about the hamburgers?
Yeah, let's talk about that in a second. But she said let's postpone it, which basically did they say, does she actually have the power to do that? And since she's the Speaker of the House, and the House invites the president to come,
Congress
she can
does,
say no.
House and Senate, but it's got to be both of them.
And it's in the chambers of the House of Representatives, apparently.
Yes.
So she can say, no, we're not going to have that.
Exactly.
So Trump, tit for tat, decided, okay.
The juvenile.
So Nancy Pelosi and a bunch of other Democratic senators are going to fly to Afghanistan and then to Brussels. Afghanistan to talk to the troops, to see how they're doing, to encourage them and
then go to Brussels to meet with NATO allies.
Right, to ally our allies and say we're not going to be leaving NATO. But Trump, in his little juvenile
petulance,
yes, as Adam Schiff calls him, a fifth grader, says he leaked that they're going to fly, and he forbid them to use any military jets, which is normally the way they would go.
Yeah, and typically, congressional
delegations
that go on trips like that, they don't advertise when they're going, because it's security.
It's top security,
and that's why she was suggesting that Trump put off his State of the Union. He's got the government shut down. He's completely culpable for doing that. And if you've got pretty much the whole government, all the representatives,
senators, the House of Representatives, and the president and the vice president all in one room.
Yeah, and you've got bare bones security. That's pushing your luck a little bit.
It is pushing your luck a little bit. So
he turns around tit for tat. No, you can't go on your...
You can't go using the military planes. Fly commercial. So Pelosi apparently did decide to go commercial. They were booking their flights, and the White House leaked that they were flying commercial.
Oh, those dirty rats.
Which is, again, putting them in a clear and present danger.
Yeah. Well, this is what I said last week. Donald Trump is a clear and present danger to the United States and the world at large.
And the world at large, and this is exactly what Putin wants to do, is to have us leave NATO. He hates NATO. Yes. He wants it broken up. It's a threat to him.
Yes.
And his greed of trying to overtake other territories. And so it's perfect for him.
Yeah.
Everything Trump has done has been to please Putin, or Putin has been pleased because of it.
Well, and, of course, Putin is like, he's got these new super fast, missile gliders.
That's right.
And so Trump is like, well, we're going to have a new Star Wars, like Ronald Reagan's debacle that would be, a missile defense system in outer space.
Right.
Yeah, good. Let's just weaponize outer space.
Which was one of the treaties that we signed years ago, not to bring weapons into outer space.
Exactly.
All the countries in the world who had the capability of doing that said no.
And just like his wall, it's a complete and utter fiasco. You can't build a space, a missile protection shield that will work. It just categorically, if China or Russia, fired off a full-on assault, you wouldn't be able to bring down all the missiles.
No,
that's right.
It's like have to put a dome over us.
Yeah, and which is impossible. And any of those projects are super expensive.
Right.
So, and of course, Trump already has approved massive increases of spending on new nuclear armaments.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. So we were going towards denuclearizing ourselves and making smaller nukes, more targeted nukes, so it wouldn't destroy the entire planet.
Right. Well, it just is stupidity compounded on stupidity.
Death spiral, man.
And, I do appreciate the job that that Nancy Pelosi is doing. We've had our issues with her, still do. But at this point, she realizes that if Trump steps up to do a State of the Union, he's just going to spew lies, and hatred. And
exactly. And so she's giving him a platform for that, and to blame the Democrats for the shutdown, which is what he's wont to do.
Yeah.
But so they said an analysis is that Nancy Pelosi is like Lucy of the Peanuts cartoon. She's holding the football and once again whips it away at the last moment. So
Trump comes running
Charlie
to kick
Brown runs to kick it and flips up in the air and smacks on his back.
That's a terrible analogy. That does real disservice to Charlie Brown. So Steve Scalise, he's a real right winger. He tweeted that the Democrats are only interested in obstructing at real Donald Trump, not governing. And I read that and I just laughed. It's unbelievable. You guys, had control of Congress, the presidency. And how many times did they try to kill off the Affordable Care Act?
Well, and that was one of the things that Mitch McConnell said with Obama. His main goal is to stop Obama any way he can.
Exactly.
So don't talk to us about obstruction.
Yeah. So hamburgers?
Hamburgers, yeah. So there was Clemson won high school, college football.
Clemson Tigers.
Right? They won their title, and so they were invited to the White House. Yay! So they all went. And Trump said, because of the shutdown, I bought all of you lunch, which was nothing but fast food from different fast food joints. So hamburgers, fried chicken, French fries. I don't think there was a bit of green in there.
No, and there were pictures of these, burger packages and stuff piled up, with the silver candelabra,
all lit,
gold plates,
right.
and it's like,
right. And he was very proud of this pile of junk food, which is what he survives on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then when he tweeted about it, he said, he said that he bought them all hamburgers.
Yeah, spelled out there.
Yeah, HAMBERDERS.
So he misspelled hamburgers.
Hamburgers.
Right.
And then Burger King's social media account tweets, due to a large order placed yesterday, we're all out of hamburgers. Just serving hamburgers today.
So Burger King is known for their really great tweets and clapbacks at other fast food restaurants. They and McDonald's are going back and forth for years. So
is that right?
Yeah, so it's pretty funny they're doing this.
So
Alicia Curry, Steph Curry's the basketball player,
his wife.
of the Warriors. His wife is a cook, a professional cook, and has written books about it, and just an all-around wonderful person.
Yeah.
And Michael Stratham, who is a former, I think I'm pronouncing his last name right, a former a star athlete, is now a talk show host. They both volunteered to sponsor Clemson to a real meal, a healthy meal, because Alicia is one for balanced food, and Stratham wants to buy everybody lobster. So it's much different than just fast food.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and Trump is like, pat me on the back because I bought everybody a bunch of junk food.
Just a fool.
What a clown. What a fool.
Clown and a fool.
Death spiral.
Yeah.
Okay. Jim, here's one that was funny. Trump went to speak to the Farm Bureau in New Orleans, and a bunch of protesters yelled to lock him up.
Good. Yes, he is screwing the farmers.
Yeah.
Everybody who's being hurt, Matt, are the people who are his base.
Yeah.
They don't quite all realize that yet, but as one person said, he's hurting the wrong people. The shutdown is hurting the wrong people.
Yeah. Well, a big part of the people being impacted by the shutdown are not the actual federal employees. It's the people who work for companies that have federal contracts.
The contractors, yes.
And so that may be like, housekeeping services, food services, all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
And they are hourly wage earners. And so when they don't get to go to work, they don't get paid.
So they live paycheck to paycheck.
And they're not going to get back pay when they finally get back to work. So they say for 800,000 federal employees, there may be a couple million contract employees that are just getting the shaft. Well, those are, low-paid, workers that Donald Trump does not care about.
No,
he to hell with them, he thinks.
Empathetic bone in his body.
Exactly.
So, in account of that, defying the Trump administration, California offers federal workers unemployment benefits.
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom is doing this. He says the Trump administration has told states they can't offer unemployment benefits to federal employees who are required to report to work without pay during the government shutdown. Newsom called a letter sent to states by the U.S. Department of Labor jaw-dropping and extraordinary as he met with TSA workers at the Sacramento International Airport on Thursday afternoon. That's yesterday. So he said, so the good news is we're going to do it, and shame on them.
Yeah.
So he's going to offer workers unemployment coverage despite the federal government telling the state it can't do so for workers still on the job. Newsom says he believes California is on a strong legal footing.
Right on.
Bully for him.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. We like our electeds in this state.
Yeah, we do.
We're fortunate. By the way, Jim, we a lot of times we go through this litany.
Bless you.
Excuse me.
Bless
of seemingly depressing news and certainly disturbing news.
Yeah.
But I do want to say that we like to think that forewarned is forearmed.
Thank you, Matt. Yes. So
I want to give a tip of the hat to Patty, our social media director here at KPCA, for reminding me of that.
That's good. Thank you, Patty.
Salient point that we just like to reemphasize.
Yeah, Patty, who seems to be always cheerful, which is great. Kind of helps us, Matt, when we come in all doom and gloom.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, we try to look for the good thing in the long run, and it'll happen. We'll turn it around. We'll look back on this and laugh someday.
Well, in the meantime, talking about the shutdown, the TSA missed a woman getting on a plane in Atlanta going to Japan with her her pistol and
pistol.
bullets.
Holy
and then,
cow.
like the next day, they missed a man getting on a plane with his bullets. And the first person that ends up dying, because
of that,
this,
is shooting in the air.
Yeah, or some lack of coverage, firefighting or something. And that's all going to be on Trump's hands.
It will be on Trump's hands. So, Matt, a little change of pace here. A Washington state lawmaker wants to legalize the composting of human corpses. Most Americans are either cremated or buried, but State Senator Jamie Pedersen's bill would add the option of recomposition, which converts bodies into nutrient-rich soil for plants. People from all over the state who wrote to me are very excited about the prospect of becoming a tree, she said.
I like that idea, except that, most people are full of toxic heavy metals and
full of the S word.
Well, no, that's good. Night soil, they call that in Asian countries.
Yeah.
But,
and American countries too.
Except that people have DDT and...
as Grace Slick of the Jefferson Airplane said, have you ever thought the preservatives you eat are preserving you?
Yeah.
And they probably are.
In fact, though, if you do compost people, and as long as you're not using them as fertilizer for your food source, that's fine, because if you put a tree grows up out of the hole in your chest, then it's in taking up those heavy metals and things
and cleansing it
and keeping them locked up in the wood.
There's a tree in me, Matt. A tree in me. A tree in all of us.
The tree in you.
Tree in thee.
That's right. And Jim, just a couple of things about the shutdown. I did want to say that the loss to the economy will now exceed the cost of Trump's wall in 5 weeks. And we're at week 4 now, right?
Yes, we are at week 4. Matt, this man has no empathy for the people. None
no, he does not.
At all. It's just a stubborn baby, as they call him, a man baby, holding a temper tantrum.
That's
and
right.
he's being bested.
That's right. And that the impact to the economy is basically... it's like 0.13% drop in growth every week.
Every week.
So now it's come up to about 0.5%.
That's right, because it'd be 4 point something, right?
That's right. Well,
it's 5 points, a little bit over 5.
0.5 something. Yeah, a little over.
Yeah,
and
5.2.
In the first quarter of last year, the growth was 2.2%.
Right.
So if you lost 0.5%, that's like 20% impact on your growth.
Holy cow.
So that's a lot.
So we're not even tiptoeing towards a recession. We're going pretty fast, it seems like.
Well, Trump's doing everything to push it to get us there.
Yeah, he is. And he doesn't understand it. He doesn't know what he's doing.
No,
he's just
he doesn't.
out of control. He's just seeing that someone is slighting him, and that's all he really cares about.
Yeah. Okay, what else you got?
Okay, so there's a yet-to-be-open Vietnamese restaurant in Keene, New Hampshire. It's fighting for the right to call itself Pho Kien Great. So Pho is the way of the first word spelling. And I didn't pronounce it right. In Vietnamese, Pho is pronounced Pho. So it would be Pho Kien Great. And they're saying they're not sure they can do that because they said it's inappropriate, but the Vietnamese people are saying it's discriminatory to say that a Vietnamese word combined with the name of our city is considered offensive.
Really? I mean,
Pho Kien Great.
What, you're not supposed to, use your own language?
How great is it, Matt? It's Pho Kien Great.
And now you're pushing it.
I'm pushing it. Beep. I have to beep myself.
You have to censor Jim over there.
Yeah, right. Well, tit for tat.
Yeah. Hey, listen, there's a bit of good news. We'd like to throw this in here.
Yeah, okay, good.
So the Trump administration tried to let more publicly traded companies out of providing the free birth control to women the Affordable Care Act mandates, right?
Right.
Based on religious objections or moral grounds, And so a court blocked that nationwide.
Yes.
Now, there was a California judge who blocked it in 11 states, and said, no, that you're violating the law. That wasn't the intent of Congress, and you can't just do that.
Good.
But a Pennsylvania judge says, you know what, I'm putting a stop to this nationwide.
Excellent.
So that was a very nice thing.
Matt, it's good to hear these are not just judges in the Ninth Circuit or in California, that a Pennsylvania judge actually did that.
That's right, yeah. And then here's another one, Jim. A federal judge blocked the Commerce Department from adding a question to the census regarding citizenship status.
What will Wilbur Ross do now?
Yeah.
Wow.
This is great,
That's
too.
big news.
That's big news. Wilbur Ross, the head of commerce, the judge was just slammed Ross, too, because, of course, Ross, sleazy little dirty scumbag that he is.
Yeah.
The judge, check this out. So the judge said that Judge Jesse Furman said, U.S. District of New York said that Wilbur Ross broke a veritable smorgasbord of federal rules.
Yep.
He said Ross cherry-picked facts,
ignored
or twisted contrary evidence, and he hid his deliberations from the Census Bureau experts so that they could not assess what the impacts would be.
Wow. I'm glad that this judge was savvy enough to find out what this is all the stuff he did.
Oh yeah, and then came right out and said it. The judge said that Ross's aides gave false, misleading statements under oath, and when asked to explain why they needed to add this question, it's basically they're making it up.
Wow.
And then Dale Ho, who is the ACLU's Voting Rights Project, said, this ruling is a forceful rebuke to the Trump administration's attempt to weaponize the census for attack on immigrant communities. Yeah. And so basically Ross kept the Bureau officials in the dark for a year so that they couldn't do a detailed study. Because, of course, if you're going to make changes to the census, you don't just...
No, you need to have studies to back it up.
Yeah, and see what the impact is. Exactly.
Right.
So this judge was just great.
Imagine what he would be like as a dad, man. They must have so many problems. Okay, here's another thing that's good, too. Remember in Wisconsin that the outgoing Republican legislature, the governor was leaving. He was voted out and the Democrat was replacing him. That's correct.
A rat, if there ever was one.
And they did poison pills to make sure that the incoming Democratic governor could not rule. And a lot of the rules that he had as a governor were taken away or modified. So a federal judge has struck down controversial restrictions on early voting in Wisconsin that were passed during the state's legislative lame duck session last month.
Yay.
The restrictions limited early voting in Wisconsin to the 2 weeks before an election. In recent years, cities, including Democratic strongholds of Milwaukee and Madison, had offered several weeks of early voting. But that's not all. Wisconsin lawmakers vote to limit powers of the new Democratic governor. That was the original thing.
Yeah.
And that was Scott Walker, as you mentioned. He's going to be replaced by Democrat Tony Evers. The same lame duck session of the legislature also sought to curb Evers' powers in a move widely criticized as a power play. Okay, so there's a liberal advocacy group called One Wisconsin Now, joined with the National Redistricting Foundation, headed by former U.S. Attorney Eric Holder, to argue the new restrictions violated a 2016 federal ruling on election laws in Wisconsin. So the short of this whole thing is Peterson, the judge, issued a favorable ruling for the groups on Thursday afternoon. This is not a close question, Peterson wrote in his decision. So he struck it down.
That's great because they really tried to hamstring not only the governor, but the incoming Democratic Attorney General as well.
So everybody who's a Democrat there basically were being restricted, and they tried to box them in.
Yeah.
Unsuccessfully.
And I mean, this was like one of the most dirty down, sleazy things we've seen in dirty down and sleazy time of ugly politics. And that's, once again, the judiciary in this country, particularly in these last 2 years, have been saving our bacon.
My hero.
Yes,
Matt, because people are saying, wait a minute, and they take it to the courts, and the courts go, no.
Yeah. I mean, it's like whether it's separating kids from their parents at the border when they're legally seeking asylum. And in fact, there's the Inspector General for Health and Human Services did a report, just came out, said that, there's likely to be thousands more kids that were taken from their families.
That's correct.
And Health and Human Services can't count them up because they didn't keep track. They don't know where they are. God. They don't know who they released them to. And it's just a huge crime.
It is a huge crime, and it reminds me of some of the stuff the Nazis would have done. But the Nazis would have kept better records.
Yeah, they would have. That's right.
Yeah. So the Trump administration separated more migrant children from their parents than previously disclosed, dating back to before it introduced its cruel zero tolerance policy, leaving the number of separations unknown. Also, get this: Trump himself tried to illegally withhold disaster relief funds from Puerto Rico on the basis of false right-wing propaganda he apparently believed, and tried to reroute that money to Texas and Florida. Monsters. They're monsters, man.
Well, and then I didn't read the article, but I saw a headline that was talking about that Trump told somebody that he didn't want to see $1 go to Puerto Rico for repair after the hurricane.
Because they don't speak English as their primary language and they're brown.
God, really?
Hey, so Matt, a little change here.
Yeah.
There's been a prominent security researcher has discovered an enormous breach of email security that has left over 750 million unique email addresses and over 20 million unique passwords exposed. So if you want to check on your own, I have a website for you. That's called Pawning, by the way, Pwning. So here it is. Get a pencil and paper.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
Okay, I got my pen. Go.
Okay, here we go. So this is to check to see whether your password has been pawned or your email has been pawned. They have both of them. It's HTTPS, and the S means it's secure.
Yeah.
And then : 2 backslashes, and then haveibeenpawned.com. And the have I been, HAVEIBEEN, and pawned is PWNED.com. So HTTPS : haveibeenpawned.com. And they'll have a little box.
Pawned.
You type in PWNED.
Yeah.
Yes, pawned. And they have a box for type in your email address, hit check, and
So if you've been hacked?
if you've been hacked, then change your password.
Oh,
There's not much you can do about your email, but make sure you change your password.
Okay.
So that's
right.
our helpful tip of the day. There we go.
Our
Feel
little
better now.
today's security reminder.
Yeah, there we go. Not bad, huh?
Jim, looking around, I wanted to note that the Los Angeles teachers are on
Yes.
strike. The
Good for them.
UTLA, the United Teachers of Los Angeles.
What did they say, Matt? 50,000 teachers are on strike?
Something like that.
Yeah.
They're the second largest school district in the country.
Unbelievable.
And, this is kind of a carry-on from the teachers striking in Arizona and West Virginia, which have been very successful in the past.
Yep.
That's
right.
Yes, they want more pay, but that's not the driving force here.
No.
The driving force here is that they want smaller classes,
Yep.
and they are fighting defunding,
Yep.
and they are fighting privatization.
Yep.
They are fighting the uncontrolled growth of charter schools, which,
Yeah.
if you're not, if you don't have kids or not into charter schools can set up, a particular approach to educating kids, and they actually take the per capita daily funding that each student gets.
It's called the ADA.
What is it? Average daily
attendance. And so every student who, that's why you have to keep so close rolls.
Yes.
Every student who comes to a public school gets money from the government.
Yeah,
So
the
that's-
government pays the district per school attendance.
Right,
And so
per
charter
student.
schools get that money, so the regular schools lose that money.
That's right. It's got to come out of somewhere.
Yeah, and so there's this unregulated growth of charter schools, and a lot of them are just complete shams. I know my niece who lives in Lancaster was telling me about
south, right?
Yeah, down in the desert down south.
Okay.
She was telling me about this big charter school, ended up building big fancy buildings and
Yeah,
all this stuff, and suddenly went belly up because the guy that was running it was a scammer.
Are we surprised?
Yeah, and
No.
but this whole thing is like that's part of the reflection on the whole Betsy DeVos
Thank you. I was just
and
going to say that.
privatization
Right.
of public education that
That's
the
right.
billionaires want.
That's right. They want everything privatized, and this is one of the things.
Exactly. They want to make it, another profit center.
Yeah, so these guys are striking. Another thing that they talked about, I listened to an interview with a very articulate English teacher, and he was saying, pay isn't, yes, it's important. We haven't gotten the raise in a long time, but class sizes, and his class
Yes.
sizes were 40 plus.
Yes.
So think about that. If you're an English teacher, he says what he wants his students to do is to write, and write some more.
Yeah.
He spends all his free time, including his vacation time, grading papers.
Yeah.
And so that's
It becomes just a impracticality.
you can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't do it. And also what he says it's important is we need more counselors. We don't have enough counselors
Right,
for
and
these
nurses
students.
at schools and
Correct.
librarians.
That's right. All of the support staff.
And it's the district is like 80% Hispanic, or and like 10% white and 10%.
So there's probably a language issue.
Yeah.
right?
So if you've got a huge classes and you have language issues, that
That's gonna
becomes
be
all the more
tough.
difficult.
It's going to be difficult. So they're striking, and you pointed out, which I had forgotten about, but there are unionized charter schools down there,
Yes.
and they are also joining the picket line.
Yes, because
which is good.
Yeah, because those, they understand the way this works. The superintendent of the schools, Austin Butner, is an investment banker with no educational experience.
Of course not.
And he wants to run the schools like a business.
Of course
well,
he
guess
does.
what? It's education. It's a school. It should not be run like a business.
You can't run it like
That's
a
the
business.
purpose of government. It's like,
thank you.
do you want your fire department to be run like a business?
Yeah.
Oh, so if you pay them more, they'll get to your burning house faster?
Which they used to do in England, and you'd have a little
Exactly.
plaque saying, I paid my dues, so you can put up my fire.
And people finally realize that, there's a purpose to organizing, and let's have a government where
Socialism,
we
Matt.
provide
Socialism.
these services, and
Right.
education is a benefit to everybody. Yeah, so I'm wishing those striking teachers well.
I do too. And before we get off that topic, one more thing. I
Yeah.
always maintained as a public school teacher for 25 years that before any administrator or any legislator wants to do anything with education, he or she needs to come into the classroom and shadow a teacher or actually teach a class for
Sure.
at least, God, a month would be fabulous.
Yeah.
Because you see all the challenges that teachers have.
Yeah.
And you understand a little bit more of what's going on instead of, just make it run like a business.
Well, and one of
Can't do
the dangers of charter schools is also, and private schools as well, which the right wing is constantly trying to get, private schools and religious schools to tap into public funding.
Right.
Is that the charter schools can often, pick and choose who they,
They do.
take as students.
Absolutely.
Whereas the public schools are mandated to take kids with physical disabilities, mental disabilities, emotional disabilities, have sometimes very limited intelligence.
Absolutely.
Those are
All of
kids
those.
that take, extreme amount of resources
Yeah.
to, educate and care for
And give
appropriately.
support. That's correct.
Yeah. And so if you have, if you're taking the cream of the crop and leaving everybody else, to the public schools, it makes it very hard to educate your society.
Correct. And one of the things this teacher also said is they are not against charter schools. They're just against the unregulated growth of charter schools.
Yes, that's
and
right.
that's a big difference.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So here's a little note. Christian Bale, the actor, calls to stir this week when he accepted a Golden Globe for his scathing portrayal of former Vice President Dick Cheney in the film Vice. And his thank you thing was, thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration how to play this role. Pretty funny.
I
but
think we mentioned that.
Cheney's daughter Liz was outraged. The GOP congresswoman from Wyoming promptly fired back with a tweet saying Satan probably inspired him to do this too.
Inspired her dad?
I think he meant Christian Bale, but anyway.
Oh, God.
Wow. So,
Hey,
yeah.
Iowa Representative Steve King got
fascist.
Yeah, that bigot
White
got
wing.
his racist butt kicked off of all his committee assignments.
Stripped.
Because in an interview with I think the New York Times, he was, I just don't get why white nationalism and white supremacy is is offensive.
Slap down, Matt. Slap down.
Congress was the House voted to condemn. They condemned white nationalism and white supremacy, 424 to 1. The one that didn't vote for that actually wanted to censor King directly.
Oh.
And King kind of skated on that. Censure by the House is very rare. And, I'm sorry they didn't censure him because he certainly hasn't deserved it.
But it's nothing new. He's been doing this for
years. Yeah,
he was born that way.
Yeah, Iowa, I mean, it's like, this is from one of the back corners of
It's crazy.
the country where it's just like, oh God, what are you guys thinking?
What are you thinking? Exactly. So, Matt, there's a British woman. Do you like asparagus, by the way?
I do.
I do too. I like it a lot. There's a
Yeah.
really good way to pan grill it. That's really good. But anyway, a British woman claims that she can predict the future using asparagus, so don't eat it all. As the world's only known asparomancer. Her name is Jemima Packington. She's 63. She sees omens in the way spears fall after she throws them into the air. She claims the method predicted Brexit, as well as President Trump's summit with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. And she says, I am usually about 75 to 90% accurate, she says. I go through my predictions each year and think, yep, that's happened. Her 2019 predictions include a U.S. recession and a Brexit far less painful than feared. That would be good, the second part. And the first part, we're probably going to go to a recession, so there's nothing new with that.
Yeah, we know it's coming. Well, the Brexit, that's interesting because Theresa May, the Prime Minister's deal with the EU to leave the EU just was shot down by a huge margin. And basically, there's so either England is going to have a hard exit, which is going to be completely disastrous
for them.
They think that the pound will lose, maybe 30% of its value. I mean, just could be completely disruptive and confusing. Or they could try to negotiate something, but the EU, the European folks are saying, we're not going to.
Right, they could say no.
We've done it. We've been working on this for 2 years. Right. You guys wanted to leave. Here's the deal. That's it.
Tough patooties.
Yeah.
Or the third choice.
The third choice would be the ideal, where they would actually let the public vote once again.
Thank you.
Because now the polling is showing that the majority does not want to leave the EU.
Yeah, it makes sense. And the consequences for us, Matt, we're one of their biggest trading partners.
That's right, California.
California itself. I didn't know that. I thought it was the whole United States.
But California specifically.
So we don't want them to leave.
No.
And also the problem with Northern Ireland versus Ireland and the rest of Great Britain is going to be a problem too.
That's right.
Wow. And speaking of voting again, Matt, there's a question of whether we were talking about the bathtubs on sticks.
Bathrooms.
Yeah. The bathtubs on sticks. And
I think I've got a PSA here.
Okay, let's hear that.
All right, let's see if we can.
Let's see if we can cue it up. It's on the USB stick, and Matt's doing his wizardry with the knobs and stuff and volume, and here we go.
Oh, let's see.
Maybe.
No, wait,
do we have?
Let's see. This is CD1.
Okay, we got it. Getting there.
All right.
Check it out. Oh, here it goes.
No,
it's not it.
Get the right track here.
Okay, here we go. We're getting closer.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, step right up, step right up. Come see the marvel of the century, the ninth wonder of the world, the art installation to end all art installations. They say it couldn't be done, that it would never be approved, that it was too dangerous. Poppycock. You'll gasp, you'll be amazed, you've never seen anything like it. Well, except for the same piece that was rejected by the good people of San Bernardino. It defies gravity, bathtubs in the air. Not just one, not two, not even three, but several bathtubs in the sky, bathtubs on sticks, ladies and gentlemen. All for the small asking price of $150,000. But pay no attention to the price or even think that we, the good citizens of Petaluma, are getting our money's worth. We are! Nowhere else but Petaluma will there be an artistic piece such as this. Nowhere else in the world. People will come from all parts of the globe to beautiful Petaluma to stare, to gawk, to be amazed at how easily the citizens of the town of Petaluma were parted with their money for such an amazing piece of art.
Hey, y'all, I just want to...
Oh, there. Okay, good. Yeah. We didn't want Cardi B coming in there. She's not edited. Yeah, so that was what it was like, man. I went down to the display of the bathtubs on sticks, and it was quite a show. The artist himself, Mr. Goggin, was wearing a gold hard hat, and other men were wearing hard hats and overalls, and they were holding these sticks up with I think it was a paper bathtub.
A canvas, I think.
Canvas, okay. But the thing is, he seems to change his tune about how bathtubs relate to Petaluma. And the latest was when someone said it's going to fill with water, he says, well, I'm paraphrasing now because I didn't actually hear him say this. The bathtubs will fill with water and then drain just like the tidal basin fills with water from the tides and drains away.
But the bathtubs are going to have lids on them, so they won't be filling up and draining.
Yeah, Matt, it just seems to me, regardless of what you feel about the artwork, it seems to me that Petaluma is being taken for a ride, and the city slicker from San Francisco can come up and say, I'm going to get $150,000 from these rubes in Petaluma, and I'll tell them whatever they think they want to hear just so I can get that money.
Well, I mean, the art world is competitive, and certainly to get $150,000 grant, you do have to do what you can. But the whole thing is specious from the get-go in that his whole rationale for coming up with bathtubs is completely absurd.
It is absurd.
He's claiming that, they came up on the ships, in the iron front buildings of Petaluma. Yeah. So it's like, well, why not just have, bathroom sinks or commodes,
Right. A commode would be perfect. Or why not? We're known for our dairy and for our chickens. Why not a chicken or an egg or a cow?
Well, I just find it to be a lack of vision on the artist's part. You think about all the history you've got, Native Americans, you've got the whole chicken industry, you had the wheat farmers.
We had the Jewish people who invented the incubator here.
That's right.
All of that, yeah.
The Jewish chicken farmers.
Right.
You do have the Victorian iron front buildings. You've got beautiful art, beautiful flora and fauna and animals. You've got egrets and herons.
You got it.
You've got,
Name it.
The fish.
The rolling hills with the oak trees.
Yeah.
And there's so much stuff he could have gone. It's much more like Sonoma County and Petaluma, for goodness sakes.
So bathtubs on stilts.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And plus, the thing that really galls the heck out of me and got me really suspicious is that he did the exact same project in San Bernardino. And the city council said, no, that's not art.
It wasn't quite the exact, but it was
bathtubs
close.
on sticks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so he's recycling, which artists do. I get that.
Yeah.
But trying to it's like taking a round peg and pounding into a square hole.
Yeah,
Doesn't
I mean,
work.
you know, really, public art, and, you know, yes, art is in the eye of the beholder. It's
Yeah,
true.
right,
And
that's true.
some people, you know, like...
Some like it, some adamantly like it.
Yeah, I mean, and we've got some public art around here that I like. I really like the giant plug in the side of the PG&E
I like that too. Or
power
the
station.
whale out by Friedman's. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
That's
yeah,
really cool.
And
You go inside of it.
and I like the piece in front of the art center. That's sort
Yes.
of industrial
Yeah.
humanoid piece.
Yeah, or Edwin Hamilton's stone ball by the Art Center.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Pretty cool.
I don't care for, you know, 3 steel girders, you know, I-beams welded together.
Get that. I like that better than the ice cream cone in front of the movie theater.
Yeah, I don't care for that one either. And I really don't care for the one that's out there on Lakeville and Freitas, which is like
I like that one.
a stack of graduating orbs.
Oh, I like that
Do
one.
you?
Yeah. See,
You know,
now,
so
you
there
and I
you
should
go.
be art critics. That's it.
One thumb up, one thumb down on
That's
that
right.
one.
2 Mooks and an art.
But, you know, here's the thing, Jim. For criteria, I mean, how should you determine what's good for public art? Well, so, I mean, to me, one of the critical aspects would be that it should be able to stand the test of time. Well, how do you figure that out? Well, you know, the best thing I can think of is go look at art that has been around for a long time
Yeah.
that people still like.
Except for Goldsworthy, who takes bits of nature,
Well, he does some very interesting stuff.
and his stuff is designed to decay over time.
Well, that's fine. You know,
But he's designed that.
and his has got some grace and form and flow.
Oh, gosh, he studies the area.
Yes.
So it becomes part of it, and the materials that he uses are part of the natural area where
That's
he is.
right. Yeah. So I mean, you know, with all the richness of this environment, and
Right.
you know what you could do,
Yeah, what you could
and to
do.
come up with bathtubs on stilts,
Nobody
just
gets it.
really is like limited thinking. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like
Well, it's gonna be called Tubaluma.
Tubaluma. Well, and and I have good friends on the art commission, people I respect, and who's, you know, some are artists whose art I very much like.
Yeah, like my wife's.
Yeah, and you know, but
She's
she's
not
not
on
on
our
the
commission.
no. But the you know, there's you know, there's a lot of, what am I trying to say here? The
Controversy? Different tastes?
a lot of the people that are excited about this piece are excited because it's novel.
Yes, and they say it's whimsical, it makes me laugh.
Yeah,
Ha-ha.
and that's great. But, you know, when
Yeah.
the novelty wears off, what are you going to have? You're going to have a bunch of goofy bathtubs in the sky
Yeah.
that are just, you know, not
Goofy bathtubs. In
appealing.
The
They're
no,
not-
and what's going to happen when they are graffitied? If they break, is the city going to be liable for cleaning it and responsible for cleaning
Well,
it and fixing it? And what about people who are drunk and they climb the things and they try to jump into the river?
They may still have trouble getting this approved. You know, when you look at American with Disabilities Act
The ADA.
restriction, when you look at the potential
Mm-hmm.
for it being a, you know, what they call an attractive nuisance, that it would, you know, attract people who would vandalize or damage it.
Well, that was one of the attractions of it. People who like it say, this is going to be great. It'll bring in tourists who'll come up to see Petaluma with the bathtubs on sticks.
Yeah.
Which
right.
maybe they
Maybe.
will, but one time, and then after that, I think we're going to be a laughingstock.
Yeah, it's like once the novelty wears off, how does
you
it
got?
does it have any, you know, real draw?
So
to
what's
it?
the solution, Matt?
Well, so I think it's possible that the Art Commission, I think they have one more review. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah. So I mean, if they approve it, I think it's going to get appealed. You know, I'm hearing, and I haven't. This is just, you know, secondhand. I don't know, but I'm hearing that some form of polling or
I
review
heard this too, yeah.
that 80% of the people hate the thing.
I heard that same thing.
And if that's the case, well, you know, I think opponents are going to say, we're going to appeal this to the city council.
Yeah, and the city council does have sway in the final decision, and usually I think that they don't want to step on anyone's toes and let each commission be independent, but they can refuse that.
Well-
and if they do, it's going to be a heck of a storm that comes up out of that.
Well, no, I don't think it will be. I think they need to override the Art
case.
Commission because that is the city council's authority,
Yeah.
and they do it all the time, Jim. They do it mostly with planning commission decisions. Planning commission says, yeah, we want this project.
And
No,
then
we don't, that one. And that gets
roll
appealed
over.
to the city council, and the city council goes, thank you. I know Teresa Barrett was saying that we want to honor the volunteers who are on the Art Commission.
Right.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
but
that's
that doesn't mean that their decisions are all right, and it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be appealed if a majority of people feel that strongly about it.
I agree. And one of the main complaints was there wasn't enough advertising of the meetings, and the people on the Art Commission says we did advertise it.
They did. They were, you know,
Correct, but the people who
duly notified.
didn't hear about it said, well, we didn't know what venue where you were advertising it. You may have been doing it, but it wasn't in a public.
I mean,
place,
that's a constant refrain with even city council meetings.
Okay,
I didn't know it was happening. Well, how many people get the agendas? How many people look to see?
You have to hunt for it.
When and where the meetings are and what they're about.
Well, it's dividing the community, and I would like to see a resolution so we're not so divided. Because I still like to walk down the street in Petaluma and say hi to my neighbor, even though I don't necessarily know them.
Yeah,
anyway.
Absolutely.
Wow. All right, that's enough. It's enough of that.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I do think it's ultimately going to get appealed to the city council.
Yeah. Also, there's the Safeway gas stations that's coming up. And apparently the Safeway is saying you didn't follow the agenda right because you didn't have it on the agenda. What was it? They talked about something that wasn't on the agenda.
They said that the city council made the decision to require an environmental impact report.
That wasn't on the agenda.
Wasn't on, which is the Bullpucky.
Yeah.
No, just because it didn't say, the city council is going to make us do an EIR on the agenda doesn't mean the city council can't tell them to do that. If the topic is on the agenda,
should be open.
If the council has an authority to make a range of decisions.
Good,
this was within that range. The city attorney, Eric Danley, says, you know what, we're just not going to fight that. We'll have another hearing.
I think what, and that's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea. Yeah. It's the quickest and easiest. It wastes the city council's time, and I hope the city council turns right around and says, we're still telling you to do an EIR.
Yeah, and they could absolutely do that. But if they do it, if they dot all their I's and cross their T's, then the Safeway has no complaint.
That's right.
And that'd be good.
That's right. So so we'll see how that one comes out.
Yeah, we'll see how it comes out. That's pretty good.
Let's see. Have you heard the...
is this a joke?
No, the term occasioned.
No, what does that mean?
It means Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez.
AOC.
Yeah, it's like, when she says, don't hate me because you ain't me.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you got occasioned.
Oh, I like that. That's really great.
Isn't that cute? Yeah.
Well, there's a whole article here of why is there so much attention on this woman. She's 29 and she's a freshman and she's tearing it up, and the Republicans are going nuts. And from National Review, it says the main reason is because you always need villains, and AOC perfectly fits the bill. Her utopian fantasies coupled with her wild-eyed delivery make her seem like the unbridled id of a left-lurching Democratic Party.
If our listeners can't tell, the National Review is an uber right-wing, foaming at the mouth
wing. That's right.
Magazine.
But they're talking about her. She wants to have a 70% marginal tax rate, and it doesn't mean 70% on all the income. It's over 9.9 million. So if you have $10 million, you pay 70% on that, just 10 million. That's above 9.9. So if you 11 million, it'd be 70% on 1 million. And it's happened before. They were
after World War II.
Yeah,
they were higher than
91% in the 1950s.
91%.
Yes, that's right. And that was still considered America's golden age because there was growth, economic growth, and the conservatives see it as a golden age. On taxes, AOC is really just proposing a return to the 20th century norm. How about that?
Yeah, how about that? Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we'll be, what is it? Occasioned.
Occasioned. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Jim, looks like we're at the top of the hour.
No, already?
Yeah. Here we go. But there you go, folks. The latest update on the Trump spiral death watch.
That's right. And, okay, we're going to work on a little logo for that in music.
That's right.
So, Matt, have a good week.
Yeah, Jim, thanks, man. Thanks for tuning in, folks. This has been Two Mooks and a Mic.
Two Mooks and a Mic.
On your local free-range radio.
Jim Thomas.
And till next week.
We'll see you.
Take care.
Same place, same station.